You got the whole charade on impeachment, basically a distraction to try to hurt Trump in 2020. Then you've got the affirmative case for Democrats being made at the Democratic presidential primary debates. A sort of frontrunner, erstwhile frontrunner, Joe Biden, collapsing on stage. Not quite literally, almost literally. He had nothing. So Biden opens up the debate, making the case, his case for the presidency, as it has always been, is that Joe Biden is the most electable. Joe Biden is the most appealing. Joe Biden is the best candidate to beat Trump. Unfortunately, he was barely able to get the words out.
Well, look, the next president of the United States is going to have to do two things. Defeat Donald Trump, that's number one. And number two, it's going to have to be able to go into states like Georgia and North Carolina and other places and get a Senate majority. That's what I'll do. You have to ask yourself up here, who is most likely to be able to win the nomination in the first place, to win the presidency in the first place?
Okay, I would suggest, humbly, respectfully, the candidate most likely to get the nomination in the first place and then beat Donald Trump is going to be the candidate who can form a coherent English sentence. And Joe Biden can't do that. I don't know whether it's because of his age. That's what people are blaming it on. He's also just kind of a doofus and has been a doofus for his whole political career, as early as the 80s. You can't blame age in 1988 when Biden was still a young man. So the whole argument saying, look, I'm the most electable candidate, it only works if you can speak. It only works if you have any energy on the campaign trail. It only works if you can actually make your case. Joe Biden was not able to do that. When he could speak, it was even worse than when he couldn't speak. Joe Biden was asked a question about domestic abuse, what we're going to do about domestic abuse, women getting beaten by their husbands in America. I kid you not, his answer was he was going to punch the issue hard and hard and hard. If you turned that into a Hollywood producer and said, this is the script. If you turned it into Lorne Michaels, you're writing for Saturday Night Live, and said, this is my impression of Joe Biden, they'd say, that's so ridiculous, we're not even going to use that. And yet here is Joe Biden himself saying he is going to viciously beat the issue of domestic violence until it's a submissive pulp.
No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big no, I really mean it. It's a gigantic issue.
Oh, Joe, what are you doing? We need to change the culture. That's the only way we're going to stop domestic violence. We need to change the culture. And the way we're going to change the culture is we're going to viciously beat that culture. We're not going to talk to it reasonably or respectfully. We're just going to punch it. We're going to punch it until it does what we tell it to do.
And punching at it.
We're going to punch at it. We're going to punch at it. And we're going to punch at it. Awful, awful. And he actually, in Joe's defense, went into the debate with a serious handicap, which is he got bombshell news about 3 hours before the debate that his son, Hunter Biden, had fathered a child out of wedlock with a 26-year-old woman in Arkansas, I believe. DNA testing established with scientific certainty that Hunter Biden is the father of an Arkansas baby. This is according to court papers in Arkansas. Hunter Biden had met this young woman, London Alexis Roberts, while she was a student at George Washington University, while Hunter Biden was dating his late brother's widow, and while Hunter Biden was still not divorced from his own wife. Now, why does this matter? Am I just mentioning this to point out what an absolute degenerate Hunter Biden is? Partially, but that's not the only reason. I'm mentioning this because Hunter Biden, a guy who squandered his family's money on hookers and drugs and strip clubs, that's according to divorce papers. Hunter Biden, who while he was still married to his wife, began sleeping with his dead brother's widow. Hunter Biden, who while he was doing both of those things, also fathered a child out of wedlock with a 26-year-old student at GW. Hunter Biden, who went on a coke-fueled drunk drive from Los Angeles after getting into a fight at an LA nightclub all the way to Arizona. They find a crack pipe in his car, and the cops don't press charges. That guy managed to land a position making $600,000 a year on a Ukrainian energy company board. The whole story just underscores how crooked this deal was with Hunter Biden in Ukraine. And Joe Biden knew about it, and Joe Biden said, you better know what you're doing. Hey, Michael Knowles here, and the fact is, these cigars aren't cheap. Be sure to subscribe to the Daily Wire on YouTube, because I depend heavily on your support to continue enjoying this wonderful lib-triggering life.